There was another mass shooting in America this past weekend. This one took place at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township in Michigan on Sunday, the 28th of September 2025. I wrote this yesterday. I need to make that clear because there's every possibility that there will have been another mass shooting stateside between when I wrote this and when you actually get to hear it. And so the pro-gun and the anti-gun lobby will begin their merry dance yet again. The anti-gun lobby will argue justifiably that there are too many firearms in the US, that they're too widely available, and that the continued lack of gun control will continue to leave citizens injured and dead. Gun enthusiasts, backed by the influential National Rifle Association, will assure us all that guns don't kill people, people kill people. They will point to the US Constitution and the Second Amendment that proclaims their right to bear arms, and they will assure us all that they will surrender their firearms only when we pry them from their cold, dead hands. And for the record, one of my friends was given the freedom of the City of London, which, among other things, granted him permission to drive a flock of sheep across a London bridge. He's never done that, partly because he doesn't actually have any sheep, and partly because to do so would be a huge ball ache to his fellow Londoners. And I mention that purely to illustrate a point to our American cousins. Just because you're granted a right to do something doesn't mean that you must exercise that right. Now, unbelievably, there are many in power in the US that will look at the mass shootings at Virginia Tech, Columbine, Sandy Hook, and a multitude of other places and suggest that the solution is, in fact, more guns. For example, they will assure you that the solution to school shootings is arming teachers. Now, I don't live in the US, and the very notion of guns terrifies me. But suggesting that the solution to gun crime is more guns is surely like suggesting that you tackle a plague of rats by getting more rats. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering what all this has to do with demolition and construction. The connection is more obvious than you might think. From the relative safety of the United Kingdom, which for the record is neither under Sharia law nor a wasteland beset by marauding knife-wielding gangs, it's easy to look at the US and see that if you took the guns away, shooting people would become much, much harder. Criminals, lunatics, and religious zealots would have to get a lot more creative in their killing sprees. But before we look smugly upon the US and shake our collective heads in disbelief, are we really any better? Can those in the field of demolition and construction really cast the first stone, safe in the knowledge that someone won't throw it back with the word sinner scrawled upon it? Just like right-minded Americans recognize that more guns equals more gun crime, we in this industry know that more people working at height means more people killed by falling from height. We know that if we allow men and women to work in close proximity to heavy equipment, the greater the chances that someone will be killed by a piece of heavy machinery. We know that asbestos is a carcinogen with a proven ability to kill those exposed to it, yet we allow working men and women to be exposed to it on a daily basis. I'll save you doing the maths. The way to reduce the number of people killed by falls from height is to have less people working at height. The way to avoid workers being struck and killed by equipment is not to have more people working beside more machines. The way to reduce the number of people killed by mesothelioma and other asbestos related diseases is not to have them inhale a whole lot more of the stuff. Yet, like our American cousins who cling to their right to bear arms, even if it means a few more deaths, the demolition and construction industry clings to its working practices in the very same way. Like the US's Second Amendment, many of the industry's working practices were created and perfected decades ago or more. Like the Second Amendment, they were created as a reflection of their time. And like the Second Amendment, they failed to keep pace with the modern world. Back in 1791, mass shootings by lone individuals were virtually impossible. The weapons basically took them too long to reload. Even the most skilled gunmen could only fire twice per minute. Those guns also lacked the accuracy of modern day firearms like the AR-15, which can fire 45 rounds per minute, although it can be modified to fire 400 rounds per minute. Similarly, the notion of working at height was devised long before we had 70, 80, or 90-story blocks in our city centres. The UK's Health and Safety at Work Act was created in 1974, and while it's been amended and modified since, it has its origins in a time when the sector was still coming to terms with mechanisation. We've also known about the hazards associated with asbestos for decades, but it's only now that our workers are being exposed to it as those older asbestos riddled buildings reach the end of their practical life and require demolition. This is not just a failure to move with the times, however. Once again, like the US gun situation, mending our ways is just too hard. We can all see there's a problem, but to overcome that problem means overcoming decades of tradition. It means convincing inflexible, stubborn, and obstinate people to make changes, even though they are fundamentally resistant to changes in all its forms. The problems aren't insurmountable, but they're just seen as too grueling to actually tackle because there are too many vested interests standing in the way. And so, at some point in the coming days or weeks, America will experience another mass shooting. Innocent people will be injured. Innocent people will be killed. And we will all point at that and say it was both predictable and preventable. And at some point in the coming days and weeks, an innocent person will be injured on a UK demolition or construction site. An innocent demolition or construction worker will be killed. And we'll all point at that and say that it was both predictable and preventable.